Sure.
Here we are, punters, back for part two, chatting with Howard Waller. And Howard, you're operating in that northern New South Wales, southern Queensland area. So on a daily basis, how many sort of meetings do you look at? How do you go about doing the form? And then once you've sort of got to that point, you decide you're betting. Is it you're backing multiple runners in a race? You're being very specific, like DK tends to be, or a bit of both?
Potentially, there's probably nearly always one meeting Tuesday through Friday, might be two on a Friday, and then on Saturday there could be four, and then on Sunday there'll be one or two. So then I just sort of, the calendar I send out says these are the meetings I'm looking at, these are the days to expect an email, but obviously within each meeting there'll be certain races that I'll just give a cursory glance to, the Hack Stays race or whatever, just don't go there, not interested, it's like, they take it in turns, etc., etc. Unless, you still look at it in case there was a horse that's on the way up and they've decided to go through that path, and it's like, oh, well, it'll win on the way to being a good horse. So, yeah, potentially there's, could be 10 meetings a week I'm looking at.
So on a Saturday when there's 4 meetings, how will you start like really early and try and do or you just pick the eyes out of those 4 meetings?
You have cursory glances from Wednesday to...
So for the Metro Saturday, I'll be doing the speed map, say, on Wednesday night, and I'll be checking my black book just to see what's actually accepted, in case, then I straight away want to look at the market, in case, you do get horses that just won 1 or 2 in the bush and they've undersold them, and, they might go up $21 and you think they'll probably run $6. But so you're looking just in case that horse has skipped the classes, come to town, and it's going to measure up. So Wednesday night, the speed maps for the Metro, and the other meetings will be looking at like Gold Coast. There could be a tab meeting in New South Wales. There'll be Toowoomba Saturday evening, or they'll just wait till Friday when I'll start going through which races they're like they're promising. Those markets aren't going to go up till Friday evening anyway, so it's not like you need to know too much in advance.
So when you found a race that you like, or a couple of races that you like, so what is it straight sort of form? Are you doing a lot of video work? What's your call?
So I do, the video is definitely the thing I'm always doing. Like I'll watch the replays of every meeting that's in my jurisdiction and watch every race 2 or 3 times if necessary, just to try and fully understand what went on, create my black books. That's the big part of it. But then when it comes to doing the form, I think we just all do things similar. Like I know some people use ratings. I don't use ratings as such, but the speed map would be the first thing I look at. The stables and the jockeys that I prefer, but there's no hard and fast rule with that as far as I'm concerned, because I'm certainly not. I'm happy to say I'm not a jockey bagger at all, and I'll back anyone if I'm confident they can
do the job on
they
that
can
horse.
Do the job. So and there'll be some jockeys that just always ride a horse, and if they've won on that horse, that'll do me. And I don't care who else is riding in the race if they're familiar with the horse. And it sets up well for that horse.
Horse familiarity is a thing that's undersold, I reckon.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, and I've had a couple of frustrations with that lately, where I have recommended backing a couple of horses. Jockeys have ridden them previously and actually didn't ride them well, and I find that frustrating. But again, one of the things I say to anyone who's thinking of subscribing, we don't rant. It's racing. It's going to happen. You just have to live with it. But I will sort of say, it was disappointing because he really should have known, or she really should have known. I don't know what.
That's their job.
What they were thinking, because they've ridden a horse before, and they, and I was confident that it's set up well. But anyway, that's so that's the next part of it. The speed map's the main part. Obviously, the class comes into it, but in the races I'm looking at, they're a pretty even bunch a lot of the time. So on any given day, it really just depends where the barriers fall, what stage of their prep they're at, what form they're currently in. It is really, isn't it? And then the track conditions, and that's probably been the nightmare of Queensland for it seems like 2 months.
How about the early markets? Are you finding less and less holes?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Except when it goes from on April 1st from daylight savings to daylight robbery.
Whatever there. Tweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, this is ridiculous. I mean, like in our time when we were working for the corporates, how much importance they placed on price competitiveness and the customer experience. Yeah. But now that they've gone totally automated, and this applies to quite a few of them, when the scratching comes out at say 7 a.m, 7:30 a.m, things just go completely pear-shaped. And these robots, they cut the horses, and it goes from like 130 over around to 140. But then someone's robot cuts it again, so they all start cutting it.
Again,
What I'm saying
there was one race was $1.20, $2.80 and $3.90.
Yeah, I know, you know, it's like, and seriously, because 2 or 3 horses were scratched.
You said another one was $1.40 and $1.75, and the $1.40 went off into $1.35.
Yeah, I was like,
180%.
Yeah, imagine turning that off. You'd sack the bloke. You know, why were you turning that off? Just push the others.
What is going on in these joints?
It's unbelievable.
It happened at Sandown too, like not to that degree, but there was a race where it was like 180%, and I'm saying, when are they going to fix this? You know?
Well, yesterday,
they'd all just copied off each other.
Yeah.
There was only one that was 150.
There was one race I wanted to bet on at the Sunshine Coast yesterday. There was 7 emergencies, so that they're in.
What?
They're
How many?
7 emergencies, I think. I think they were running 14 runners. I'm sure there were 6 or 7 emergencies. Anyway, none of them ran. Now this shouldn't be difficult, right? So you've got your 130 that you want to be at 8 a.m. in the morning, and you've got the whatever they add up to might have been another 45%. But when they came out, instead of it just normalising at 130, it got to 190. It got to 190, and one of the favourites actually went off. And so I'm sitting there for 10 minutes thinking, okay, I can't send a tip out yet. We've got to wait until they're not all up yet. Once a few others went up, it starts to come back down. But as I say, it's a terrible experience, and I hope some of the powers that be amongst these organisations think about that, because some of them haven't gone up till after the scratchings. And anyone who's been in this game, for 5 minutes knows that owners, they're really keen to bet when they finally go up. Now, if you've been waiting to see what price your horse is, or you're waiting for the scratchings to come
That's
through.
right, they want to be first on, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they do, and I mean, and every other punter as well. And it's like, so just go in and see those examples you gave, which were true. It's just terrible.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there, Chad. It's all
It is a problem because that basically, from a lot of these organisations, all the people that have got a really good feel, or a lot of the people, I should say, that have got a really good feel for racing, and the instinct for racing, have been removed from those organisations.
Yeah,
correct.
And they're left with mathematicians.
Correct.
So you think that they notice when the percentage is just ridiculously high and it's not customer friendly.
They're not racing people. I mean, the guys on the trading floor still are. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about powers that be. They're not racing people.
No.
They've come from banks. Aren't the banks going well? Let's talk about that. They've come from banks. They've come from this. They've come from that, and they've got all these PowerPoints and all these bloody algorithms and all these spreadsheets. It's just a product to them. They could leave that corporate bookie tomorrow and go and work for Woolworths or go and work for Commonwealth Bank or whatever.
That's right.
And what they do well. But once they lose sight of the customer and that experience, and with the technology they've got, if you're 130% at 8 a.m, which I haven't got a problem with, but the 7 emergencies come out and you're still not 130%, you've got a massive problem.
Yes.
I'm starting to think, DK, that the market's actually becoming less efficient than it used to be. Because, first of all, the market they're putting up is computer generated, so it's missing an aspect that should be included. And then it's being driven to where it ends up, influenced heavily by a very small group. Now, when a lot of them line up in the same direction with the other tiers down, then it gets the targeted runners that everyone's found, they get too short. And when there's a wide range of opinion, it's weighted too heavily to too few. And I think the market's actually producing more inefficiencies as a result. And the only thing that's anchoring it at all, really, is Betfair.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Betfair, I think it'd be going completely haywire. So the
Well,
days where Betfair
similar
goes,
algorithms in play on Betfair are in play on the totes.
Yeah.
So they're sort of holding up the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because they're corresponding. Similar.
But I kept seeing these situations where it's, there's only 2, and they just keep backing, they keep shortening. And when you look at it afterwards, you go, they were both way too short. You know what I mean? Like, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, they just...
Well, they do target 2. They target 2.
Yeah.
Notice that so much.
Yeah.
They target 2 runners. You talk about doing the maps, Howie. Speed map Lotto. How do you find speed map Lotto?
Speed map Lotto. Did I say that?
Yes. Right, a good.
Yeah, well, and actually, that's a bit of this has been going on lately because of the weather in Queensland. We've been getting a lot of smaller fields, scratchings every day. It's soft, chance of more showers, etc., etc. So there's always a bit of sarcasm and whatever in what I talk like that. But sometimes, and the other thing compounding all this at the moment is Doomben has become leader biased so often because it's being over-raced. Everyone understands why. So they're in a difficult situation. And they've even got a guy, they gave him a month the other day, Matthew McGilvray, because he just pressed on 4 wide, pressed on to go to the lead, and they've just basically said...
They're being told to lead at all costs.
They've said you've slaughtered the horse, and he's appealing, and as he's already, what I've read is he's already saying, I'm basically riding this way because of the bias. If you're not there at the turn, you're just not in the hunt. So that'll play out in due course.
Well, that's the thing, everyone sees the same things. I did a map yesterday, like betting a race at Ballarat, small field, became a small field.
Yep.
There was no speed here at all. And I had a horse who was been back in all his races. I said, oh, he'll get blinkers on, he'll get forward today. The first winner, Bernie's regret. But it was obvious to see anyone who did the race that everyone saw the same things.
Yep.
So out of the gates, 6 of the 7 runners all wanted to be forward, and Bernie's ended up last. But then because of that, they went harder than what, so he got the card up and still won the race. But that was when you said speed map lotto. I said that was dead set speed map lotto. I'm thinking he's going to be in the 1-1 and he's going to outsprint all these things in a slow pace. He's set to come from last.
Yeah.
I did that race, DK, and binned it because I think they're the hardest races to map when there's no natural leader and no natural
there's no natural leader at all.
And you know that they're going to see it. So it does become speed map lotto.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden it's going to be about intent. And if they've all got intent, then you get what you got there.
Like the blinkers was the trick that got me involved because he had the shades on.
Yeah.
So that'll spark him up. But, But Matty Williams got on the TV beforehand and said, well, it's not so much to get him forward. He said he climbed a bit in his action. He's been climbing a bit in his action, particularly terrain, which he had no hope. But this will help get him through his gears, and it did.
Yeah.
You know, so it was interesting. Just you learn things. You still learn another thing that the blinkers help a horse get his action together.
Yes.
You know, which is an interesting. I hadn't thought about. You know,
yeah.
You still learn things.
I did another race at Ballarat. So DK, I would have really liked to have backed Mr. Storm, but it was the same problem. There was no natural leader in that race. He drew one, and I could see him kicking up and then being diggerised.
Yeah.
So I just decided not to get involved.
Did he win impressively?
He got out to a nice price and won well. Yeah.
Geez, he went good. He was back like as a group horse at backing him.
It was a really good race there at Ballarat, that one yesterday. It was him and the weird horse Merriman that won the Main in Town. Temple of Bell first up.
Temple of Bell,
You know, she's a really good filly. She obviously wasn't tuned up to win first up yesterday, so really good maiden that one.
And you're talking about the tracks up there, so you've got big problems up there with your tracks. In the metropolitan area, you've got Dooman's been flogged to death, of course, with these Eagle Farm issues. They've had Mick Goody because he's been up there helping out, and Elliot Forbes has resigned.
Yeah, he's resigned.
And Terrabot is a poison chalice of a job, CEO of Racing Queensland.
Heard a very good interview just the other week, Mark Oberhart on the local radio up there, and he was saying you've really got to hire a mongrel to do this job. He said who's ever going to be the CEO of Racing Queensland is going to have a lot of mongrel in him. He said Elliot Forbes is a lovely bloke, and he wasn't trying to put the blame on him like a lot of people obviously on Twitter or wherever do. They just, and whatever, but he's just saying to get the government, whatever it takes to get all this to happen and work and get it resolved.
There's lots of factions up there and
infighting
and things.
It goes back a long time in Brisbane racing. Those two clubs, from what I've understood, going back, they never got on. So it's really sad. I mean, no one wants to see it happen. They've got the new training facilities and the huge stabling and all that at Eagle Farm, but they haven't got a race.
So you've had the first day of the Winter Carnival there, the unofficial hall for start Wheatwood Day. So I mean, what's going to happen with Doomben through this Winter Carnival? What are you thinking is going to happen? They're going to move meetings to Sunshine Coast or something? Or?
I would like them. I don't know if they've decided yet or not. I'd like them to run the Stradbroke at the Sunshine Coast because that's the makeup of the race is as many horses as you can squeeze onto the track as possible. Field of 18 or whatever, and that long run home. Which is
somebody won a race on Saturday. He said, "What are you going to do with this horse?" He said, "If they run the Stradbroke at Sunshine Coast, I'll go there." But he said, "They probably." Which horse was that?
No, I can't recall.
Can't recall. It was one of the big winners.
If they don't do that, it'll only be political because the club.
Correct. And last year they didn't do it, but I really think they should. Toowoomba's an interesting track. Like they had their big meeting on Saturday, 14 runners a race, and all the jockeys raved about the surface. They said we haven't ridden on a surface this good for a while. Now Toowoomba races nearly every week of the year. They often have small fields Saturday nights. Like the former curator there's gone to Perth now, but the guy who's replaced him is obviously doing an equally good job. Now Toowoomba, I don't know, I'm guessing it's like Geelong or something. It's not that far from Brisbane. I don't know why. And at the moment, they're also running quite a few Friday night meetings because everyone said run at night, you turn over more money. So the Sunshine Coast is getting hammered. Whenever they have a Friday night meeting, they get 7 races, small fields. Then on the Sunday, they get 7 or 8 races, small fields. Now, the bean counters probably say that's okay, we don't care. But they'd be far better off just racing once a week at the Sunshine Coast, get your 8 or 9 races, big fields. They've got to get Toowoomba out of Saturday nights, I think, until Eagle Farm's resolved.
Yeah.
they can run it to Woomera on a Wednesday. All the stables will go there. There's no question, especially after the feedback they got on Saturday. Doomben should only be running once a week.
We'll continue this chat. We'll do a little a short part 3, but I can just say, as I go over to turn this off, if Queensland ends it with Mick Goody, it'll be Victoria's loss. There's not a more knowledgeable trackman in the country.
Yeah.